Picture this. You live in a beautiful place. The land isn't just dirt under your feet. It's everything. It's your history. It's your supermarket. It's your church. It's your future. For the people of Kenya, especially the Kikuyu, this was life. The soil was rich. The mountains were sacred. The community was everything. Then one day, new people show up, the British. They don't just visit, they decide they're moving in. They take the best room in the house, the fertile highlands. The Kikuyu had farmed those highlands for generations. A hostile takeover with tea and crumpets. Original inhabitants pushed aside, squeezed into native reserves. Like being told you can't live in your own house, only the garden shed. And that shed keeps getting smaller and more crowded. This wasn't an inconvenience, it was a spiritual wound. The land connected them to their ancestors. The land was their identity. Losing it was like losing a part of their soul. British settlers living large on vast farms. A system built on fundamental injustice. On top of losing land, Kenyans lost freedom. The colonial government needed cheap labor. They introduced taxes. Something had to give. A storm was brewing, about to change Kenya forever. So, when a system is designed to break you, what do? You can accept it, or you can fight back. For many Kenyans, the time for quiet acceptance was over. The frustration that had been simmering for years finally boiled over into a real movement. It started not with a bang, but with whispers in the shadows. People began to gather in secret, deep in the forests away from the watchful eyes of the colonial authorities. They were tired of petitions and political parties that achieved little. They wanted their land back. They wanted their freedom back. This was the birth of the Mau Mau. A name that would soon strike fear into the hearts of the settlers and hope into the hearts of the oppressed. The movement was built on a powerful idea, reclaiming what was stolen. Its slogan was simple and direct. Ithaaka na Wiyathi, which means land and freedom. It wasn't a complicated manifesto. It was a cry from the heart. To join, you had to take an oath. This was a deeply serious spiritual commitment. The oaths bound the fighters together, creating a secret brotherhood and sisterhood willing to risk everything. They swore to fight the white man, to drive him from their land, to never, ever betray their comrades. This use of traditional ceremony made the movement uniquely Kenyan, grounding their modern fight in ancient beliefs. The movement grew rapidly, from displaced farmers to unemployed youth to people from all walks of life. The Mau Mau were not a conventional army. They were a guerrilla force, a movement of shadows. Their strength came from commitment and knowledge of the land, not superior firepower. They would emerge from the forest to attack settler farms, police stations, and colonial infrastructure, then melt back into the wilderness. Their weapons were basic: pangas, spears, homemade guns, but their greatest weapon was their spirit. A fight for their very existence, fought with ferocity that shocked the colonial establishment. Leading the fight were figures who became legends. Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi, a brilliant strategist and symbol of unbreakable resistance. He organized fighters and maintained discipline. He and leaders like General China created a parallel government in the mountains. Their system included courts and communication networks. They were building a new Kenya in the heart of the forest. The British would not give up their prized colony without a fight. Their response was swift and unbelievably brutal. They declared a state of emergency in 1952. It gave them near limitless powers. Unable to fight in the forest, they waged war on the Kikuyu population. They called it the pipeline. Mass detention. Hundreds of thousands rounded up. Men, women, children, forced into camps. These camps were places of torture, starvation, and forced labor, designed to break will and sever support. The violence was extreme. Villages burned, livestock seized. Battalions of British soldiers and local regiments were given free rein to hunt down suspected rebels. Torture was widespread in camps and interrogation centers, forcing people to renounce oaths. Back in London, the story was civilizing a savage rebellion. The reality was a dirty, brutal war. A war where the line between civilian and combatant was deliberately blurred. The human cost of the Mau Mau uprising was immense. Tens of thousands of Kenyans lost their lives. Many were killed in combat. Many more died in the horrific conditions of the detention camps. Disease, malnutrition, torture. The capture and execution of Dedan Kimathi in 1957 was a major blow to the movement. By the end of the decade, the armed rebellion in the forests had been largely suppressed. On paper, it looked like the British had won. They had crushed the military wing of the Mau Mau. But they had lost something far more important: the moral authority to rule. The spirit of the rebellion could not be extinguished. The Mau Mau may have lost the battle, but they won the war. In 1963, Kenya finally won its independence. Jomo Kenyatta, long imprisoned, became the first president. For a long time, the Mau Mau story remained complicated. The fighters who had sacrificed so much were often forgotten, left to live in poverty, while others took power. But history has a way of finding truth. Today, the Mau Mau are no longer seen as terrorists. They are celebrated as Kenya's founding heroes. In 2003, the ban was lifted, and they were recognized as national freedom fighters. Monuments have been built, including the prominent statue of Dedan Kimathi in Nairobi. Survivors received an apology and compensation from the British government. The Mau Mau story is a reminder that freedom is never given freely. It is fought for, bled for, and won by ordinary people who stand up and say, "No more." Their legacy is Kenya itself.